I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with a salute to the flag and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Carey?
Mr. Talty?
I'm here.
Mr. Conti?
Here.
Ms. Cusinelli? Mr. Panucci?
Here.
Ms. Suter?
Here.
Mr. Reed? Ms. Cantillo?
Here. Mr. Edwards?
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Brick Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be posted on the Administration Office Bulletin Board, the official district website, and Channel BTV 20, sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Brick Times, the Star Ledger, and Municipal Clerk's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Do I have a motion and a second to enter executive session?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Conti. Mr. Edwards?
Whereas the Brick Township Board of Education has been formed pursuant to the applicable New Jersey statutes, and whereas the board is charged with the responsibility of performing all acts and doing all things consistent with the law and the rules of the State Board of Education, necessary for the lawful and proper conduct, equipment, and maintenance of the public schools and public school property of the Brick Township School District, and whereas Section 7 of the Open Public Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting of the board in certain circumstances, and whereas the board has determined that circumstances exist for such an executive session, and whereas the board has found the action described below to be necessary and proper, now therefore be resolved by the board on October 23, 2014, that the public shall be excluded from the discussion of an action on executive session herein set forth. The session will be approximately 30 minutes, and the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is a student matter. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public if and when it is deemed to be in the public interest to do so, and the need for confidentiality no longer is required by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. For the record, Mrs. Carey, can you denote that Mr. Reed has arrived? And we can vote.
Mr. Talty?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Suter?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. I'd like a motion to re-enter public session.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci. Second. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mrs. Carey?
Mr. Talty?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Suter?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. Now we're going to start our presentations. Do we have? Yes, we do. Okay. Sean?
Fellow members of the board, teachers, administration, students, parents, and citizens of Brick. I just want to say please excuse any lapses in my organization because I'm going solely off chicken scratch today.
Can't hear.
Just recently we had our homecoming last Saturday. We broke our record of
Just about.
last year with 560 students this year. There was fins catered with Y50s. We had a carnival theme, popcorn machine, and an ice cream truck actually stopped by. So everybody went outside and grabbed those and bought the tickets. And we had a lot of people said it was really fun. We got the encouragement from a lot of people. It was better than the problem. I was kind of privileged to be on board with 4 of the boys and 5 girls.
Okay.
Kevin Simic, one of them, Tony King, and Sierra Rubin, one of them. We had Mr. and Mrs. Memorial, which is a class of 2015 pageant for the seniors. I was actually part of it. It starts out where you have an section for somebody to escort you. I went in with nobody and then surprised my mom. And then we had talent, and I did a little back my dance. ended up winning, so that's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Want to see the dance? I'll show you. There you go.
You got to get up on stage.
The Pals Club is doing a makeup drive in our school. We have, personally for SGA, we have 50 donations already. What it is that we're getting new unopened makeup donated, and we're creating bags for breast cancer survivors. It's supposed to be an uplifting thing for them to get the bag and deal with how to make up. And then also for the Pals Club, annual Thanksgiving box donations, which we're trying to meet the record this year. Last year was 48 boxes, so we're trying to meet that. Personally, SGA has made 3 boxes last year. I'm trying to make 4 this year. And it's very much to say if anybody wants to donate any food items that can go to Thanksgiving, just come to me, by all means donate. So that's where faculty and students are working together. Then we have our special education camps, November 14th, that will be Friday. Students come to chaperone, we have this DJ there, and we dance with them, we help the teachers out, there's food, and it's always a lot of fun, because by the end of the time, they're not only having fun, but you feel great at the end. The VFW, 8867, Commander is Jack Russell, actually just gave a grant to our ROTC for $3,000. So we're congratulate them on that. Now I want to talk about sports. This is really a list of how everyone did or has been doing, which it seems everybody has a winning record. Volleyball qualified for the short conference tournament. Presently their record is 11-10, and they also qualified for the state tournament. Field hockey qualified for the short conference tournament, which is the first time since 1994. They qualified for the state tournament. They are 8-9. Gymnastics qualified for the short conference tournament, and for the 6th straight year, they qualified for the state tournament. They are 12-1. Boys soccer qualified for the short conference tournament, and they're the 8th seed and qualified for the state tournament. They're 10-4. Girls soccer was qualified for the short conference, and for the state tournament, they're 10-6. Boys cross country finished 4 in A South and competed today in the Ocean County Championship, which there's some secret word from Don Calais, our own Kyle Muller, first place today. The girls cross country finished 5th in A South. They competed today. I'm not sure how they did.
That's great.
And then our football team is ranked 9th in the top 10 of the shore, and ranked number 3 in the South Jersey Group 4. And then we're actually part of the Asbury Park Press game with me. Saturday didn't win that game, but there's a lot of pictures online. You can go check it out. I'm actually there. Pictures on the floor, taking a selfie. Student section.
I know, I heard about that.
News, stuff going on at Rick Memorial. So as always, thank you.
Jackson Marina.
Thank you, Sean. Alana for Brick Township.
He played last week.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alana. It's so nice to see you all again. And thank you, Mr. Grossman, for having me represent Brick Township High School. It's truly such an honor. We've got a lot of stuff going on at this wonderful place. But first, I'd just like to say a special thank you to Dr. Liu, because he actually came to our school to discuss matters with me about buses and football, and it really just meant a lot to the student body that he came and he was involved. And I think as a student body, we just all really know that all of you guys are concerned and really want to make Brick Township High School better than ever, and we just really appreciate that. So thank you, Dr. Eo.
Thank you.
Also, Band Festival, he was also there too. This guy's coming to everything. And Band Festival went wonderful. I was there also. We had lots of bands. The Dragon Marching Band is actually outside marching right now. I saw them when I was coming in. They played and it was great, spectacular. Last week we also had our Spirit Week, and everyone was dressed up for all the days. You could walk in here Monday, everyone was in their pajamas. It was like, if anybody came in here who wasn't a dragon, they'd be like, wow, these kids were really asleep this morning. And we all got to raise money, each of the classes. We had penny wars. So what we did is we were all walking around with these huge jugs around the whole school, collecting money for each of our grades. And by the end of the week, I took all the money to the bank, and each class made about $100. So it was great because now they've got money for prom or for whatever events they want to do. We also had our homecoming game last week, and our homecoming court, they all run around the cars. I was one of them. It was a lot of fun. I got to do my princess wave, something I really like to do. And also at the homecoming game, the classes, as a part of SGA, we had them each decorate a car to represent a decade. And so the seniors, we got the 90s decade, so our car said welcome back 90s alumni, because we really anticipated a lot of alumni coming back for the homecoming game, and we were really happy to see everyone. And then again, to vote for your favorite car, we had people put change in a bucket. So each class last week made about $200, $300. So Brick Township High School is rolling in money, people. Also, our homecoming dance was a huge success. We had about 550 people there. The gym, dancing, it was awesome. Anybody know Miss Stryker? She's down
Yes.
in the, she's the secretary.
She can dance.
It was amazing. That lady, she can dance, okay?
She can.
And our homecoming king was Brian Omi, a really remarkable Brick Township High School student, represents character. It was really great to see someone who embodies the spirit of a dragon win the king, and I was really honored to be the homecoming queen also. That was People are too much. I love them so much. But yes, homecoming was a lot of fun, and also we got to raise a lot of money for the cheerleaders. And then I'm going to also talk a little bit about sports. We all know the Dragon football team. They're doing amazing. I mean, they only lost one game. So, round of applause for those boys. Now, the girls soccer team, they're doing good in their season, and they're also big on philanthropy. They've raised $6,000 for breast cancer, so that was amazing. And the tennis team, it's the first time since I can even remember, I don't even know if this has ever happened before, they won 2 matches in the state championships for tennis. So Brick Athletics, we're really doing fabulous. The chorus also performed at the Unico, like the Italian heritage, the flag raising. So that was great. We had representation there. And again, we're also doing the food drive for Thanksgiving coming up soon. And we've got lots of veterans activities plans. NHS is getting all their hours for service. And our students of the month are going to be honored at the student council meeting. And that's pretty much all that I could think of that's going on at Brick Township High School. And again, just thank you guys and Dr. Yu for being so involved. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Dr. Caldez?
She's gonna go down that way. You have to go that way. Just go with her. She's gonna come up.
Good evening to everybody tonight. Tonight, we would like to call up Ann and Lou Piazzo, and I think tonight we have a number of family and friends here. I'd like to call up Larry and Ann Mike Sansevier, Mary Balkowitz, hope I said that right, Christine Lauer, Mimi and Patrick Wolcati. Tonight we have a special presentation in memory and honor of their son Joseph. We have a plaque that we're going to put up for the Brick Memorial High School weight room in memory of their son. They were able to fundraise $6,385.51. The money will be going to refurbishing the weight equipment and weight room at Brick Memorial High School. It's something that Joe spent a lot, time. He was a football player, baseball. He was a Mustang, and a lot of pride over Brick Memorial. And see here all the family and friends got together and did fundraising for money for the weight room and everything. And the plaque will be up there. It'll always be up there. Hopefully, we'll motivate a lot of young men. And they'll ask the coaches, who's that young man up there? And the coaches will only always say good things about him. That he was as Coach Curry would say, he had the spirit and dedication to be a true Mustang. So on behalf of Ms. Cantillo, we have a check here we'd like to present you tonight, and a plaque that I will take back and make sure that it gets hung up in the weight room. very quickly, and we will put that, to good use so that multiple ways will benefit. And we just want to thank you, and it's great that you did this, and we really appreciate it and honor it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just a few words. My son Joe passed away in December of last year, and I guess it was probably in March. His friend and our neighbor, Vin Bobowitz, called me, a classmate of his, and said he'd like to arrange a fundraiser on Joe's behalf. And so from the get-go, it was Vin's idea. His mom and dad, Mary and Chris, did all the work because Vin gave them the work. And he lives in the town. And we and Ann and I just kind of stood back and watched our loved one do all this stuff for our son. And it was, as hard as it was to lose Joe, it was very helpful to see how much support we had, how many people loved my son. And we're really glad that this happened. The plaque will be hung up there in the waiting room, which he never went to, but now he'll know where it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Family members want to come up?
Yeah, I want to go.
That's got to be hard.
Over there.
Did Matt bring you up to date about that? Contact? The teacher's contact too. It's always been in the room. So we may turn to you for one. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus.
Sit on the end from now on.
The teacher of the year has her little tribute here, so we can take her maybe first before you do Osborne. So we can, the teacher of the year.
Okay.
Chicken.
Where is
That would be this one here and the plasma.
Yeah, this is the 10 legislative.
Yeah, that's her.
That's what you want to do?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
So you want to read that and the plan she gets, and bring them up and get a picture.
Flowers.
And if you want to ask one of the board members to read the bill.
Mr. Reed, want to help me?
No.
Yeah, I know.
Bills me.
Figure that out. If you do, let me know.
It's my pleasure, on behalf of the Brick Township Board of Education, to present this proclamation congratulating Lanes Mill Elementary School's Ms. Wendy Kachugian. Am I pronouncing it correctly, I hope? Whereas the New Jersey 10th District Legislators annually present the Excellence in Education Award to the elementary, middle school, or high school teacher who best exemplifies commitment and dedication to classroom teaching. And whereas Ms. Wendy Kachugian has been an elementary teacher at Lanes Mill Elementary School since September 2003, and whereas Ms. Wendy Kachugian is currently teaching 3rd grade at Lanes Mill Elementary School, working to open students' minds to ideas, information, knowledge, and dreams. And whereas on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2014, Ms. Wendy Kachugian was presented the 10th Legislative District Excellence in Education Award for 2014 in her Lanes Mill Elementary 3rd grade classroom. And whereas Ms. Wendy Kachugian has become the first Lanes Mill Elementary School teacher to earn this accomplishment. Now therefore, on behalf of the Brick Township Board of Education, we ask the Brick Township school community to join us in honoring Ms. Wendy Kachugian as the 2014 10th Legislative District Excellence in Education Award recipient.
Bring your family down too.
As I said yesterday, during the ceremony that we had at my school, I just appreciate the people that I work with so much, the administration that I work with, and the other teachers that I work with make my life so easy. I have a special group of parents this year, and I have, of course, a wonderful group of students, and it's been wonderful to see them, to see the students that I've had in the past grow and change and find out what they're doing later on. So it makes my job easy, that I love it, and I'm happy to come to work every day, and I thank you for the part that you play in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Brian, again. Great job. Thank you. Take you. Kids, little kids. Okay, start.
I'm going to do the Osborneville.
In every chair.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Another presentation. Mr. Reed, you want to help me get some of these out?
Sure. Get through. All right. That was first.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we have very, very, very dedicated teachers and administrators in our district, and they have gone out of their way to apply for funding and grants in order to help the students in this district and improve our district. To start out with, I have the Osborneville Elementary School Ocean First grant recipients. First, I'd like to call up Mrs. Pat LaRusso. She is our principal. Outstanding Achievement Award, Mrs. LaRusso.
Pat, stay right there.
Mrs. Kathleen DiGregoli. Brett Novick.
Good job, Pat.
Congratulations, Brett. Chris Batista. Tracy Steigerwald. Congratulations. Candia Rivera.
Job.
$10,000 grant they got.
Nancy Evans.
Good job, Nance.
Teresa Bonk.
We didn't miss anyone, did we?
I just want to say that Osborneville Elementary School won the $10,000 Model Classroom Grant from Ocean First Foundation. The grant was written at the end of last year for upgrading the library media center into a digital media studio. They will receive an active board touchscreen and projector, 4 new MacBook desktops loaded with photo and video editing software, and a multimedia speaker systems. This will enable students to have a deeper and richer academic connection with their peers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Brett.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Pat.
Congratulations. Good job.
At this time, we're going to have our park update from Ms. McNamara.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here once again this evening to update you on 2 very important components that we're working with this year. One is the core curriculum state standards and its connection to the park assessments that our students will be taking in the spring of 2015. And we're working on the technology, so I'll just keep talking for a few minutes. LBJ once said that education is equipping our children to walk through the doors of opportunity. We believe that by taking this path that New Jersey has chosen to follow the core curriculum state standards and to assess our children's ability to rise to the level of those standards by using the park assessments, we are helping them walk through those doors of opportunity. In this beginning part of my presentation, I'd like to share with you a simple video that will demonstrate why New Jersey decided to take the journey of the Common Core state standards.
Like it or not, life is full of measuring sticks. How smart we are, how fast we are, how well we can, compete. But up until now, it's been pretty hard to tell how well kids are competing in school and how well they're gonna do when they get out of school. We like to think that our education system does that. But when it comes to learning what they really need to be successful after graduation, is a girl in your neighborhood being taught as much as her friend over in the next one? Is a graduating senior in, say, St. Louis as prepared to get a job as the graduate in Shanghai? Well, it turns out the answer to both of these questions is no. Because for years, states have been setting different standards for what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. That's making it too hard to know if our kids are really doing well enough overall. And if they can really compete for a job someday. What we really need are clear goals. That's where the Common Core state standards come in. They're like a total sea change in education. Consistent, strong, clear benchmarks for English language arts and math. Here's how it works. You can think of kindergarten through 12th grade like a giant staircase. Each step is a skill your child needs to learn before stepping up to the next one. But right now, too many kids aren't really confident with like 2 + 2 before they have to move on to 2 × 2. We need more focus on the skills that help them move up the stairs, or they can slip up and fall behind. And there's another problem. What if everyone's stairs were made at different heights? Well, here we go again. They are. So, a boy in Seattle who's rocking an A in English literature could be getting a C on his Chicago friend's staircase. Oops. We need to create consistent steps in education too. So first, each standard creates a landing on the staircase, a stop along the way as your child heads toward high school graduation. Each stop is a chance for every parent and teacher to focus on the skills their students are supposed to know at that step, no matter the zip code, language, or race. And more importantly, each standard makes sure all students are learning what they need to know to get to graduation and beyond. Because something like counting to 100 leads to understanding dollars and cents, which eventually leads to understanding how to manage a budget. Secondly, the standards are consistent from school to school, and they match up against international standards too. Now we know how we're doing compared to just about everyone. So even though local communities will still design their own curriculum, with the same rules, everybody can compete on the same kind of staircase. But standards aren't learning. That's why we need teachers, parents, and students to help make that happen. By working together to help kids meet these standards. The world's getting more and more competitive every day. But now, when our kids get to the top of their staircase, they can have way more options on where their life goes from there. Clear goals, confident, well-prepared students. That's the Common Core State Standards.
So just a simple video to express to you what the Common Core State Standards are and why New Jersey decided to take that journey down that path. In choosing that path, we hope to help our students make a complete journey to academic success. Some of the reasons we're going in that direction is because we live in a global community that requires us to have higher degree in technology skills, to be able to employ higher order thinking skills, and to be able to utilize those skills within a rapidly changing world in order to be successful in today's jobs. No longer is memorizing enough, although it is part of what we need to do. We also need to be able to employ critical thinking skills. And we need to provide those opportunities to students in a variety of ways, because students learn in a variety of ways, and they learn at all different types of educational levels. So we've taken this journey down the path for academic success through the Common Core, and we're going to measure how well we're doing through something called PARC. In the Common Core, we have several instructional shifts. One of the biggest instructional shifts exists in English language arts, and that is an emphasis in reading, writing, and understanding informational text, nonfiction text. We've also broken it up into several parts: reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language, all of which will be reflected in the PARC, although the speaking and listening won't happen until spring of 2016. There's also an instructional shift where math is concerned. There's a greater focus to solve problems inside and outside of the classroom. There is a focus on linking topics and thinking across grade levels where mathematics is concerned, and also an increase in rigor in conceptual understanding, procedural skills and fluency, and application. So how does this all connect? The Common Core State Standards are the standards that we are going to use to measure our students to see how well they're doing in terms of progressing through their grade levels. And we're going to do that through something called PARC. PARC is broken up into a series of computer-based assessments, and we will be experiencing those assessments twice a year. There's the PBA, which is the performance-based assessment, which is given at approximately the 75% mark during the school year, and then the end-of-year assessment, which is given at approximately the 90% mark. The PBA in mathematics focuses on reasoning and modeling and requires short and extended responses, while the PBA in English arts focuses on reading comprehension and writing when analyzing text. How will those assessments look when they get delivered to the classroom? Well, in grades 3 through 8, there's 3 units for English Language Arts in the PBA, each of those units lasting approximately an hour. Please remember, these are computer-based. And in mathematics, there'll be 2 units, again, each one approximately an hour. In grades 9 through 11, English Language Arts, and at the high school, it is not grade delivered as much as it is subject delivered. So in English Language Arts in grades 9 through 11, 3 units of testing, approximately an hour each. And in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, once again, 2 units of testing, approximately 1 hour each. The English Language Arts component for end of the year will focus on reading and comprehension, and for mathematics, a demonstration of understanding of math concepts and demonstrate mathematical fluency. The end of the year test is primarily a multiple choice test. And once again, it will break up into different units. Specifically, the change here is that the English Language Arts piece at the grades 3 through 5 level will only be 1 unit of testing, while the grades 6 through 8 will be only 2 units, and in grades 9 through 11 it will be an increase of 3 units. All others stay the same in terms of the mathematics. So what does that mean in terms of graduation requirements? For the 2015 cohort, which are the students who are graduating this coming June, they will still need to achieve a passing score on the HESPA, which was the previous assessment that was used at the high school level. Moving forward into the 2016, 2017, and 2018 years, those cohorts will have a number of ways in which they can demonstrate proficiency and meet the graduation requirement. In English Language Arts or in mathematics, they can pass the PARCC in the respective areas of English Language Arts grades 9, 10, 11, or in mathematics, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. Or they can achieve a passing score on a substitute competency test, which I have listed below. Those substitute competency tests include the SAT, the ACT, the AccuPlacer, both in writing and in math, and the ASVAB, which is another type of assessment. The New Jersey Department of Education has provided cut scores for all of those alternate assessments. And finally, we could also use the criteria for the NJDOE portfolio appeal. Now, I know you probably have more questions than are up there on the screen, but these seem to be the most frequently asked. Will students in grade 8 currently enrolled in Algebra 1 take the grade 8 PARCC, or will they take the Algebra 1 PARCC? If the grade 8 algebra leads to geometry, they will take the Algebra 1 PARCC. And then another question that many educators and parents are asking is, how will their scores be reported? The scores will be reported as one score for both the PBA as well as the EOY. So it'll be a combined score for the 2 assessments. And finally, those scores in this very first year will be delivered to us sometime in September, early October of 2015. Again, that's for this first round of assessments as we all get used to the process and the grading and moving forward with this type of assessment. There are many, many resources that you can look at for PARCC. There's Math Common Core for all grades and English Language Arts for all grades. And then there's PARCC assessment resources online. This presentation will be online, and you can certainly access any of those particular resources to further your knowledge in terms of the core curriculum, state standards, and the PARCC assessments, which we will be experiencing in the spring. Martin Luther King once said that faith is taking that first step onto the staircase, even if you're not quite sure where it's going to lead you. And while we don't actually know a full course of where PARCC and the Common Core state standards will lead us in the end, we do know that it will open up those opportunities for success for our students. And we look forward to working as a team to bring this exciting time in education to all of the children of Bricktown. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNamara. Mr. Bayo, are you prepared and ready for your technology presentation? Okay.
Good evening, members of the board and Community Central Administration. I'd like to thank you for having me here this evening to talk a little bit about the technology and what has been implemented in the past 2.5 years, and give you a good idea of where the district is and where the district is going. I have two parts of my presentation. The first is going to give you some statistics and information about the equipment and about everything in place. And the second part is in a video that will show you real time what's going on in our classrooms from the teacher's perspective, from students' perspective. So let me start with that. Just want to go over the past 2.5 years, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, district has invested approximately $5.8 million in technology, which is a very significant accomplishment. In 2012-13, the district started by implementing the one-to-one initiative at the high school, and also then invested funds from the budget, which significantly started equipping the classrooms with projection systems. In 2013-14, $3 million was expended, most of which is thanks to the Sandy grant of a $1.9 million infusion, which technology was purchased for all of the schools. We upgraded our infrastructure with that money, and we also implemented phase 2 of the high school MacBook initiative, purchasing an additional round of computers for the high school. I'll get into those a little bit further as I go through the slides. This year we put some additional money in our budget to further all of those initiatives in purchasing additional equipment for the classrooms and the infrastructure, and to further all of those items discussed. The biggest thing that we needed to accomplish was to upgrade our infrastructure in bringing all of this technology into the schools, and all of it being mobile and wireless devices. We needed to be able to accommodate that. What we did was upgrade all of the wireless networking, putting access points in all of the classrooms in the middle schools and high school, and then pretty much doubling capacity at our elementary schools. The district invested in a private fiber optic network, extending the network from the central building, from central administration, out to the 2 high schools, to the Warren Wolf building, as well as to Lanes Mill Elementary. We also upgraded the internet connection. We had 100 megabit for the district. That by no means was going to be enough to serve everything that we needed to do with all the equipment that we were purchasing. We upgraded that to 1 gigabit connectivity for the district. And we upgraded our back-end core equipment. We started that process. The equipment that you don't see that's in the closets that make everything work, the switches and all the other gear that's required to make all this function in the classroom for the kids and for the teachers. Talking a little bit about what we tried to do and standardize what we've got going on in the classrooms. Every one of our classrooms we tried to bring it to the 21st century environment, bring all the 21st century tools that are necessary to teach and have an active learning environment, an interactive environment with interactive projection systems, the appropriate sound equipment. We equipped our teachers with laptops all the way from the elementary up to the high school. Our teachers have MacBooks and or PC laptops, replacing all of the older, outdated desktops that are in the classroom. We had a big push this past summer to remove those desktops because now the students have access to mobile technology. We integrated document cameras, and the network infrastructure that was in place for the IP phone system was also integrated, and all of the classrooms and the staff have access to those resources in a typical classroom. We are at a point now where 95% of our classrooms have the interactive projection systems that students and staff use. These are exceptional tools, which you'll see in the video, how the teachers are using them and how they really excite and engage students in learning. Referring to the actual mobile devices, we are now at about 6,800 devices between last year, the previous year, and this year that we've purchased. Our standard of what we've been trying to establish in K2 is buying iPads for that population with apps that are based in educational needs for all the core content areas. In 3 to 5, we had a base of existing netbooks that we have available for those students. We purchased Chromebooks for all of our 6 through 8 grade classrooms, providing them the ability. When I refer to purchasing equipment, I'm referring to putting in a cart full, 24 to 30 devices, so every student has the ability to be on a computer at the same time, as opposed to the previous model where there were 3 or 4 computers in a given classroom, and students had to rotate. Teachers had to do things in groups. We now have students with a laptop in front of them every day, pretty much, able to work with the teacher. And then at our high school, obviously, the MacBook Initiative, we have a tremendous amount of resources at the 2 high schools. Just painting the picture a little bit deeper, the elementary schools have approximately 1,400 iPads and 775 netbooks that are out in use every day, serving the students and the staff. At our middle schools, we were able to purchase 1,400 Chromebooks, and teachers have MacBook Airs as their device for teaching and presenting. At the high school, we have purchased the MacBook Airs, and we're pushing well over 2,000 devices for students and staff. A tremendous amount of resources that are available for both. Also, what we did with the Sandy funds was to purchase the Promethean interactive tables. These are great tools to promote students working together and problem solving together. You'll see in the video a better idea of how these are used, but there are many educational applications that can be used on the Promethean table where students are working together to collaborate, to solve a problem. Great tools. We purchased 24 and 2 are in each of our buildings throughout the district. The other piece that we are bringing into fruition with all the mobile technology now is to be able to utilize that and utilize it where we have electronic collaboration. We have the ability to create an environment of social media-like applications, but in a closed structure where students and teachers can communicate electronically. Students can submit homework electronically. Assignments are posted electronically. We're working through our Microsoft suite of applications and utilizing those tools to establish this playing ground for both the teachers, the staff, and as well as the administration to be able to communicate more effectively electronically using less paper. That's the piece that I wanted to go and present as far as the specifics. I'm going to go and play the video now, which is really going to give you a good idea. Teachers are going to give you some impressions of what they're doing. So let me trigger that.
I like having the computer in front of me as well as having everything projected up onto the board. It makes it easier for me to grasp the concept of what we're learning.
Math was a great class to use smartboards in because it allowed us to visualize concepts with increased participation.
Hi, my name is Miss Page. I'm a 7th grade math and science teacher at Lake Riviera Middle School. My class today will be using the Chromebooks and following along on the projector to complete assignments on buzzmath.com in preparation for their upcoming test.
Information on the whiteboard.
Because of the math books that were provided to us by the district, many more resources are now available.
Hello, my name is Kelly Sergone. I teach 7th grade math science at Lake Riviera Middle School. My students are using the Chromebooks today to review adding and subtracting integers in preparation for their integer test.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Cooper. The class today is working on Team Biz on the Chromebook. They are working on writing their thought question where they will type that into OneDrive, and I am able to see their responses in OneDrive before they actually copy and paste them into the thought question. And right now they are going to tell me how polar ice caps are affected by climate change and how that affects our ocean.
Having a laptop card specifically set aside for our seniors has been really helpful for them. They're able to come in, borrow a laptop, fill out their college applications, and write those college essays.
Technology is much more interesting than like a teacher just pointing something on the board, and I understand a lot more.
Understanding of the many, many things that are happening in this district. I walk around and I feel so proud to see what's happened when I walk through the middle schools and high schools. And we've got classrooms full of laptops being used. We've got the teachers using the projection systems. We have all of these resources that are making a difference and that are going to allow students to gain the skills that they need to move on in this technological society that we live in. I thank you, I thank the board, I thank the team, the technology team. There's a lot of work that has been done over the past 2 to 3 years in getting all this to occur. And we have a lot more we're going to do. We're excited about what is going to be possible ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bayo. I just want to say thank you very much to Mr. Bayo, Mr. Ellicott, and the whole technology staff. The hours that you put in and everything that you do to support, obviously, everything that we have here is tremendous, and you work very hard, and we'd just like to say thank you very much, and you're very much appreciated. I also just want to say that we absolutely made the right decision in hiring the superintendent that we did, because I do not believe that we would be where we are today technologically if we did not have Dr. Uzinski. His vision for this district is proving out more and more every day, and our students are benefiting and excelling everywhere. And I just want to say thank you, Dr. Uzinski.
Thank you.
Not to be long-winded, but I also want to recognize the efforts of my fellow board member, Larry Reed, not that overlooking my other fellow board members, but Mr. Reed is a very, very insistent, very, very stubborn person to negotiate with, and he would have nothing, would hear nothing else but a one-to-one laptop initiative. That was his priority as a board member. And Mr. Reed, I want to say thank you for your persistence. Okay, moving on to our approval of minutes. I need a motion and a second for September 18th executive session.
A motion.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci. Second. Thank you, Mrs. Cusinelli. Any questions on September 18th executive session? And also, I need a motion and a second for September 18th regular meeting.
A motion again.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci and Mr. Reed. Are there any questions from any board members on these minutes? Seeing none, Mrs. Carey?
Mr. Talty?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Suter?
I abstain.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. In trying to move right along, I'm going to ask my fellow board members if you have anything specific that you'd like to say in a very short, concise version for your committee report, that would be fine, but if it is not necessary and it's not something that we need to do tonight, I would ask that you hold it for next month, but I don't want to stop anyone from giving a report if they so wish. Mr. Reed?
Yeah, on the finance, probably the most important thing is the change in the medical plan on the agenda tonight is to drop out of the state health benefits plan, and Horizon has come up with a plan for us to avoid the approximately 12% increase that the state health benefits plan had in mind for us. And as a result of this change, I just got some updated numbers from our administration tonight. We should be able to save in the range of $800,000 in this budget year, as opposed to going to the state health benefits plan increase that was coming January 1st. So that's, you know, we discussed it in a special meeting. We've kicked it around for quite a while, and this is the best option for the district at this time. On the facilities side, you know, we do have a lot of projects going, and I can understand why you wouldn't want me to go through the 3-page report of the minutes, because I don't have as good a speaking voice as these student representatives do. They are fantastic.
They are very, very good.
I really admire them for that. But we are implementing a project that is not as big as some of the others, but the New Jersey Natural Gas had a direct install program that we did sign off on in committee, and it's going to be on the agenda tonight, where we're going to, they have a, what's it called, New Jersey Clean Energy Program. We're going to upgrade some of our heating HVAC systems and lighting. We're going to save about, $2,200 a month in energy costs. And the beauty of it is that the New Jersey Natural Gas is going to pay for 70% of that, or the state is, that is. And we only have to come up with 30% of the money for these projects. It's going to be spread over 24 months, interest-free, by New Jersey Natural Gas. So we need to come up with $700 per month to pay for this over the next 24 months. And after the 24 months are up, the $2,200 savings just goes right in our pocket. We really didn't have the $700 a month in our budget, but thankfully, from the healthcare savings, we'll be able to pay for it. So that's, there's millions of dollars of projects that we have ongoing. State is picking up 40% of our ROD grant projects, which total about $5 million. And so there's a lot of work being done. When you come in the doors and see the windows in the high school here, you'll see that those are new. And ongoing is the electrical project. And I would ask Mr. Edwards to include Mr. Hyfandis and Mr. Campbell on the meeting that is going to be held with Concord Engineering and SODON as they go over the project requirements. So, Mr. Edwards, if you could include them when that meeting is held, it would be beneficial to our committee, the Facilities Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Are there any other board members that want to? No? Oh, okay. Dr. Uzinski, do you have a superintendent's report?
Yes, please. Thank you, Ms. Cantillo. First of all, let me just say to the Board of Education, to the community, that our district is the way it is, and moving forward, it's because of the people like the technology, our administrators, those stars that were up here before, the shining stars. All our teachers are stars, and some shine even more so than others for the Teacher of the Year. But also, without the supervisors and the custodians, the groundskeeper, everyone, we have a tremendous team and a great Board of Education. And together, we are making a big difference in the district. And I appreciate and honored to say that not only do I work here, but I live here, and I'm proud and honored to be part of this team. Congratulations is in order for Vets Memorial Middle School. I just received this, so had not had a chance to get it onto the agenda or even let the Board of Education know. However, I am honored to say that Vets Memorial Middle School has been chosen as a recipient of the 2014 BASF Science Education Grant and will be receiving a $5,000 grant. I will be asking the Board of Education at the next meeting to accept these funds. It'll be for a STEM classroom at their school. And on November 12th, the principal and I will be attending in Florham Park a reception where we'll be receiving the check of $5,000 for the middle school. So those are the type of things I say congratulations to those teachers and the administration at Memorial School. And if I may too, I know I just told the board president a little while ago, but I do have some sad news to announce, and maybe Ms. Cantillo, if we can have just a quick moment of silence. I did receive a call, and with a deep saddened heart, I have to say that we just recently, today, lost one of our guidance counselors at Memorial Middle School. She passed away today. She was found, deceased. We do have crisis counselor set up for tomorrow at the school. It's Melissa Mateo. She was only 30 years old. So if you could please. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cantillo.
Thank you, Dr. Uzinski. I just noticed that Councilwoman Pontorero is here. Thank you for coming. Just want to recognize you. Moving on to curriculum and instruction, Dr. Morgan.
Thank you, Ms. Cantillo. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items, 1 through 12, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Do I have a motion and a second for items 1 through 12?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Cusinelli.
Second it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Conti. Do I have any questions from board members on these items? Yes, Mr. Reed?
Yes, on the field trips, I know in the past we haven't been able to calculate a cost for some of these trips. My understanding is they are in the budget. Is that correct, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, sir.
In connection with the field trips in the future and other bus trips that may come up, such as fanned buses for sporting events, I would like the administration to come up with a cost per mile for transportation. We have an average figure for the driver overtime for trips, and I'd like to come up with a wear and tear and mileage cost for the buses so that we can calculate in the future, if we wanted to add any trips, what that would cost the district. And I'm specifically thinking about fan buses, which seems to have been a past practice, but some of us weren't aware of it. And if we need to have fan buses to future events, we would like to know how much it's going to cost and where the money would come from if it's added and not already in the budget. So I'm asking the administration to do that for field trips in the future, to come up with that number.
May I have one question, Mr. Reed? When you say for fan buses, that would be for every single sport, correct?
That would be your determination. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying, because to be fair and equitable to everyone, it would be for every single sport.
Well, that would be something you would have to decide. But I think from the board's point of view, we would have to know if a trip was requested, how much it would cost the district, where we could calculate the cost of the driver, and we know the gasoline mileage they get. We don't know what the wear and tear is.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And somewhere out in the universe of school bus groups, somebody should know what that is.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions on items 1 through 12 from board members?
I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Suter?
On number 11, the physical education and health, on the CPR and defibrillator component, are we offering a certification or non-certification instruction program?
Lorraine.
Dr. Morgan?
Our nurses are certified in CPR, and if there is a request for training, we do provide it, and we do reimburse our staff.
Well, but when it's taught in the health class, what is it going to be? Are they going to get a certificate, like, the card, or are they not going to get the card?
I'm sorry, I just want a clarification. You're talking about the staff members?
No.
Okay, you're talking about the new requirement for the students?
Yes.
We are working on that now, and I can get back to you. We're working on that with the high school principals.
Okay, but don't we have to start teaching this now?
The first graduating class, that's when it becomes effective, so we're working on that right now with our high school principals, and I can get back to you.
I don't understand. Are we teaching CPR this block in the high schools, I guess is?
I will have to get back to you. I'm sorry, Ms. Suter.
Oh.
I have to just double check that.
Okay, okay. Also, on the fourth paragraph of the first page, can I ask do we have a criteria for how they can get out of the physical education requirement?
If I can provide you with more details, but generally speaking, when our students have some physical compromises, they generally have to bring doctor's notes and then generally a conversation with the nursing staff.
Well, this says, the Board of Education will consider on a case-by-case basis requests from pupils or their parents in the case of minors for permission to satisfy the physical education requirement through an alternative program of athletics or physical education activities that meets the requirements of the law and is consistent with the district's physical education program goals and instructional objectives. So that doesn't, I mean, I understand if a child is sick or hurt or broke a leg, but this seems to lead to something like if they're in athletics, they can not be in physical education. Am I correct? Am I reading that wrong?
Ms. Cantillo, if you may?
Absolutely.
Okay. That paragraph, one of the big things that has come about with the Common Core standards, we have to make sure whatever program the student, whether will be in, meets those standards, the program that they'll be going into. And we have discussed in the past option 2 where students could opt out of gym for athletics, but the big concern is now that program has, even though it's a physical education substitute, it still has to meet the Common Core standards in physical education to be acceptable to the superintendent to approve.
Right, so I'm asking, what is the criteria if a parent or a guardian wanted their child to exempt the physical education portion because they're in a sport?
Okay. What they would do is they would make a application to the, via the building principal to the superintendent, specifying what activity that the child would be doing to, so to speak, exempt themselves from the high school physical education requirement. And again, we'd have to go through and make sure that it does meet the Common Core standards for physical education. In the past, prior to the Common Core, a lot of districts waived it, but now with the Common Core, they become very specific in what is permissible to be waived and what is to be exempted, because there is the, you have to meet the Common Core within that program. Districts in the past were exempting students for physical education, to say, for an example, for a sport that might be taught by a math teacher. So in that process, I would say we'd have a hard time, Dr. Uzinski would have a hard time saying that the Common Core standards are being taught by a certified staff member and meeting those standards.
And where do they get an application?
It would be a written request, a letter requesting it.
And what happens if they do exempt from physical education? Can they take another class? Is it a study hall? How do they make up the health portion of it?
They would be able to take a study hall, but the one thing they cannot exempt is the health component. All students are mandated to take the health component regardless. Even if a student should go to Ocean County College and take a college course, Ocean County does not have a health component in it that would meet the Common Core order standards, so they would have to come back and take the health portion. So that's pretty, standard across the board. Every student has to take health in the school.
I understand that. So they would just have a study hall. They wouldn't take another class.
They would have to have a study hall unless there was something that, each building principal or the staff within the high school has, creative that they're trying, doing. They might be using that time period. For example, if they're doing an APEX course, they could use that time to take that course, for example.
Could they take another course and do the health component online?
They could do that through APEX.
Thank you.
Anyone else with questions on items 1 through 12? Seeing none?
Wait, I have one. Sure.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Mr. Conti?
Just on the sports-related concussions and head injuries, the only thing that I just wanted to ask a question about is on the first page, the bottom paragraph, the last sentence. A student-athlete who is removed from competition or practice shall not participate in further sports activity until he/she is evaluated by a physician trained in the evaluation and management of concussions and received written clearance from physician to return to competition or practice, and provides a written copy of the physician's clearance to the district administration. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to give it to the athletic trainer versus the building principal or somebody in central administration?
No, the law requires that it go to the administration because we let the trainers know. Everything gets filtered down. Because we have to keep it on file, God forbid of anything. So we need to track it.
Okay.
That came out of the law.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, any questions from the public on items 1 through 12? Mr. Finelli?
Vic Finelli, Middle Point Drive. Can I make 2 quick comments about your presentations?
No, Mr. Finelli, we're talking about items 1 through 12.
Okay. I heard you say what a tough cookie Mr. Reed is. I'd like to remind everybody that I think this is the second meeting that I've been to that he requested the information be on the field trips, and that's what my questions are about. One comment, all the costs for the field trips used to be on there, and I really asked the last time I was here why that was taken off, and I really didn't get a good answer. It used to be there. Every field trip was there, so I don't know why it's not now or why we can't even put some. I really don't know which ones we're paying for and which ones we're not. But just some general comments. Does anybody really monitor this closely? Because I'm looking at what we're voting on tonight. There were 79 field trips up there right now. I guess 2 were added, 2 or 3 were added in the last 2 days. But there's 79, I counted, right? There seems to be a wide variation between schools. One middle school has got 10 field trips, another middle school has got 5. One high school has got 2 out-of-state field trips, the other one has 5. And I'm not talking about small amounts of children, I'm talking about whole classes. The whole 6th grade, the whole 7th grade is going on a field trip. And it's a little nebulous as to, like, we're going to medieval times. I'm sure you know what that is. We're going to study history and whatnot there. We're going to Great Adventure, I guess on a math thing. I don't know whether you measure the angles on the roller coasters or what. We're going to the Philadelphia Zoo on a science project. And it seems to be a lot of that going on. And it seems to be getting more and more field trips. So I don't know what anybody's monitoring that or not, but we're talking large numbers of students. And I was just wondering, let me pick out one here. We got 703 students, 41 teachers, 9 paraprofessionals, and 125 parents going to the Philadelphia Zoo. It's 2 separate trips. I don't know who's paying for that, whether it's the school paying for it or somebody else is paying for it. I don't know. I don't know who's paying for medieval times. I don't know who's paying for Great Adventure. They all sound like fun things to do, but I don't want to be paying for fun things to do. And my question is...
Okay, excuse me. Please don't call out from the audience. Thank you.
I was just curious about, what do the teachers do on the day when all the students are going?
Go with the chaperone.
I would think, now I'm going to take a large leap of faith, I would believe that they would be going along with their class. I believe that's the whole point. It's a learning experience, and I would believe that their teacher would be with them.
Yes.
Let me bounce some numbers off because I thought that was going to be the answer. All right? You look at 703 students, and I made some assumptions. Right? I took an average class size of about 25. It's about what we have, but plus or minus, I'm not looking for exacts, right? That comes out to 28 total classes, right? 703 divided by 25 comes out to 28. Now, I guess you roughly have about 6 periods a day in school, 5 or 6. That again doesn't have to be terrific. That comes out to about 168 classes, right? requiring 168 teachers to teach those classes.
No.
Okay, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
You remember my first remarks, 41 teachers were going on the field trip. Total, that's from the two schools. So 41 from 168 leaves 127 that are not going on the field trip. So my question is, they're not going on a field trip. Only 41 teachers are not teaching 700 students 6 classes a day. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. So my question is, what do they do?
Teachers
Do they get a
teach.
day off?
Dr. Uzinski,
The teachers teach, and the kids that are on a field trip go with their teachers and their chaperones, and the rest of the teachers teach. And they have planning time, so the day is all taken up. That's what's being done. That's it.
If the whole 6th grade or the whole 7th grade
Yes, and the teachers are with them.
is gone that day, and there's only 41 teachers, please don't tell me that they're all teaching, because they're not all on the field trip, and there's no kids there. I'm talking about the whole 6th grade.
If the whole 6th grade's going, their teachers are going with them. All 6th grade teachers. I don't know what to tell you.
You don't know what to tell me.
No, because if they're going, when I was taught in 6th grade, and we all went on a field trip, and all our 6th graders was going, every teacher went on the field trip. So my answer to you is, all the teachers go on the field trip. Call the building principal, they'll tell you exactly what they're doing.
Okay, so what part of my math that I just explained to you is incorrect?
I don't know, but you know what, it's, maybe you got the old math instead of new modern math, I don't know. But I don't know what to tell you.
That's quite an answer from an intelligent man.
The teachers go on the field trip with them. So if all the 6th grade teachers go, all the 6th grade students are going. Teachers go with them. I don't know what to tell you.
You should explain it. He gets into an argument with it.
We're all going.
Yes, if all the 6th grade students are out of the building, where do you think all the 6th grade teachers are going to be? With the teachers. They're with the kids, that's what I'm saying to you. They're all going. I apologize, I don't know what else to tell you. Yep.
Could you tell me how many teachers are in each one of the middle schools?
I don't know. I really don't know. If I did, I'd be able to tell you, but I don't know that. All I can tell you is that the teachers go with the kids. Okay?
any other questions from the public on 1 through 12? Yes.
I like this lady, she's tough.
Oh, Jesus, she lives up the street from me.
White, 1622 Forge Pond Road. More of a comment. I went last year to Philadelphia Zoo. I paid to go, and I paid a portion for my kid to go. I rode the bus, and every teacher's there. And when you're taking kids out of state 6th grade to a zoo, they're very excited, and so was I. You can't expect 2 teachers to take 25 kids apiece through the zoo and have them see what they have to see and learn what they have to learn when they come back to be quizzed on. And they were. And I'm lucky because I had a good group. They bring their own lunches, or if you wanted to buy the lunch, you could. I had a real good group of crazy little boys, but they got to see everything there, and they worked with back. And it was all I could do to handle that group of 5 crazy little boys. Plus, it's the trip there, it's the trip back. You needed that. I saw a couple of parents teaming up together just for that extra, adult support. So you need it. The teachers were there. There were a lot. And I don't always agree with what goes on here, and you know that too. But on these trips, I think there should be more of them. They're educational. The kids got so much out of it. This year, they're going to Great Adventure because it's the only day of the year that Great Adventure does this mathematical equation thing that they have come in. It's going to be really cool going to that tip. I don't care what it's on. So, as far as some of the trips, I haven't been on them all. I've been on a lot. It depends on the principal, too. There's some schools that the principal isn't comfortable with sending the kids out. They don't go. When Justice was in Drum Point, he didn't go on any class trip. Now he's at Lake Riv, and they're a little older, they're a little more responsible. Not responsible enough to be there without the teachers, though. Some of the parents aren't responsible enough to be there without the teachers. So I'm not going to say, I think honestly more if we could afford it. I don't mind paying my part to go. If we could afford it and it's educational, I'd like to see them go to Liberty Science Center. I'd like to see them go to the statue. I'd like to see them go to a lot of places.
I agree with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on items 1 through 12? Seeing none, Mrs. Carey?
Mr. Talty?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Sudar?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. Mr. Edwards, operations, please.
Yes, thank you. The superintendent recommends that the board approve items 1 through 29.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Do I have a motion and a second for items 1 through 29?
I'll make second.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci and Mr. Conti.
Yep.
Any questions on items 1 through 29 from board members? Mrs. Cusinelli?
Yes, thank you. I have a question on number 15, which is the resolution for the fire alarm replacements. I was just wondering if we could get a little clarification why it says base bid and what kind of leeway there is with that. If we could maybe get some details, I guess, from Mr. Edwards, please.
Sure. Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. Mr. Edwards, please.
That's the lowest responsible bidder on this bid that was opened up on October 16th. Base bid is terminology used for if there was any alternates on the project, but just when there happened to be no alternates. So base bid is the project itself.
So does that mean that it could be higher? Or
No,
that is the number? It will not exceed that number?
Correct, unless there's change orders, of course, but, we don't know that at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board? Mr. Talty?
Yes, Mrs. Cantel. Through the board to Mr. Edwards. On item number 23, I'm sorry. On item number 23, it says the fee for services shall be as per proposal as attached. And when I open up Boynton & Boynton, which is the group that represents us, I don't see any numbers. Was that an oversight, or?
No, Mr. Talty, that is in, I'm trying to find the section. Right there, right? 1 second, wait. Boynton & Boynton is providing the services and accepting the fee that is being paid by New Jersey School Insurance Group on the property casualty and coverage. So it's the fee that is negotiated with the carrier. When we select the broker of record, we can't dictate to the carriers what it is that they're going to pay to the brokers. That's an agreement that is made between the brokers and the carrier based upon their volume of business. So this resolution, though, Mr. Talty, so I can clarify, because perhaps there could be confusion. This resolution, number 22 before it and number 21 before that, are all being placed on the agenda at the recommendation of Mr. Saradnik. We have previously approved all 3 of these entities as broker of record, but we did so, just like most school districts in the state of New Jersey have done in the past, as a professional service. A couple weeks ago, there was a decision that came out of the Deptford Board of Education where the Office of Fiscal Accountability determined that insurance brokers are not considered professional services. They're actually considered extraordinary, unspecifiable services. So what Mr. Saradnik has recommended is that we readopt the resolutions for all 3 of our brokers, Connor Strong Buckaloo, Connolly Agency, and Boynton & Boynton, clarifying that we're changing their appointment from a professional service to an extraordinary, unspecifiable service, as has recently been determined in the Deptford Board of Education decision.
So what does that actually mean?
We're not changing any terms and conditions of their contracts that were previously approved. We're just changing the way we appointed them as a professional service to an EUS. Mr. Talty, between you and I, it means absolutely nothing. And
Well,
I know
it's a little confusing for me. I mean, maybe it's nobody else, but for me, when I see a fee, that indicates to me money. So there must be a fee.
Yeah, they absolutely get paid.
They get paying Boynton & Boynton.
No, the state doesn't pay Boynton & Boynton.
Well,
the carrier, whoever the carrier is, you're right.
Okay, the carrier. So what is the fee that they're paying them?
I'd have to research that with the carrier. It depends on what carrier we selected. We selected New Jersey School Insurance Group. Each carrier has a different commission rate that they pay to their brokers. So I don't know the exact number that Boynton & Boynton is being paid by that carrier. I can find that out for you, though.
Yeah, I mean, we hired this group, and it seems that we don't know what we're paying them.
We hired them as the broker of record, but the commission they get gets paid by the carrier. So we don't pay them direct. We pay them indirect because we're paying it through the rates, but the rates that we selected were the lowest rates that were offered to us. So we, I guess, let me put it to you this way, and maybe hopefully this will clarify it for you. If we had Carrier A that was offering us an insurance package policy for $2 million, and Carrier B that was offering us an insurance package for $1 million, and we selected Carrier B for the million because it was lower, if Carrier B is paying the broker $250,000 and Carrier A was only paying them $100,000, as a Board of Education, that doesn't really concern us because we're still only paying $1 million. We're still paying less to Carrier B than we would have paid to Carrier A. You follow me with that?
Yeah, I see that point, yeah.
So we selected New Jersey School Insurance Group as the carrier because they were the lowest in insurance premium versus the other carriers that were offered to us. SAFE was one that we looked at, Selective was one that we looked at. So we selected New Jersey School Insurance Group, and New Jersey School Insurance Group has commission rates that they pay their brokers based upon volumes of business, just like all insurance carriers have with their various brokers.
Okay, well, I just don't like that. I don't like the way that's written. Let me see. There's another one here.
Now, if I just amplify that point, because I want to point out that it's different for medical. So if you look at the medical resolution, Horizon, their proposal to us does not include a commission to the broker. It's actually stated in their proposal.
Yeah,
so we're paying Connor Strong Buckaloo their fee direct. The Board of Education will be paying direct. So it's a different relationship.
Yeah, I looked at Colony, I saw the amount of dollars we pay them. I saw Connor Strong, I saw when they take over, they're going to get $60,000, plus they're going to get about $20,000 for taking over doing the prescriptions and the...
No, I want to make sure that we're clear on that. They're already getting $20,000.
They're getting 20, and they're going to get another 60 for...
Prorated, though. They're going to get half of that. So if they had done it for a full year, they would have gotten 60. But since they're only going to do it from January 1st to June 30th, they're going to get 30.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the whole year.
Correct.
Okay, I understand it's prorated.
Yeah.
I apologize. I didn't get a chance to really read this stuff until today. I'll probably have to just let some of it go tonight. Oh, the annual maintenance form M1. When you look at that, you see, I'm going to click on it. You see Brick Township and all the different schools and services and everything. There's certain amounts of dollars. What does exactly that mean? Is that how much are we actually spending on the maintenance? I mean, if it says that we're spending X amount of dollars, can we be sure that that's what's actually being spent on each building?
Well, if you're looking at the M1 form and you're looking at the prior year actual and current year budgeted expenditures, so those are the prior. It captures the last 10 years worth of data. So that is the expenditures on maintenance items over the last 10 years on all of those various facilities. Now, a lot of the items that are included in maintenance, Mr. Talty, are not directly attributable to a certain building, so there is some allocation that goes on based upon square footage. As an example, Mr. Liming or Mr. Riddell or even some of the maintenance staff that work on these buildings, their salaries are not directly charged to each one of these buildings, so we have to allocate the amount of money we pay in maintenance salaries to the buildings based upon square footage. But when there are certain projects that are directly related to a building, that cost gets captured right into that building. So there is an allocation that goes along with an actual capture of expense.
So, just for an example, Brick Township High School, minimum annual target expenditure for the 14-15 years, $61,869, correct?
Yes. That would be this year's minimum amount that we'd want to spend on this building.
That's the minimum amount we're going to spend on maintenance.
And that's a formula, the minimum, so you understand the minimum targets, that's a formula derived by the Department of Education, which takes the square footage of the building, multiplies it by the square footage allowance, and multiplies that by 2%. So the Department of Education would not approve this form if the amount that's on the, they look at the bottom, they don't look at it by building. So if you look at the bottom, the minimum required amount to be spent for 14-15 is $347,680. We would have to have that amount in the far right column, or they would not approve it. We actually are spending, we have a budgeted amount for 14-15 of $1,731,000, so we're well in excess of that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a question? Mr. Panucci?
I just wanted to clarify, though, for numbers 23 and 24, as far as board business goes, it's really just a language change for us because the state decided to change language on their end. And if council can just agree with that or disagree.
Yes, it's really, we previously, in last year's school year, we approved them, contracts with them as professional services. Now we're redoing it, if you will, and calling them an extraordinary unspecifiable service, which is pursuant to the Deptford case that Mr. Edwards alluded to.
Okay. And I just want to thank Mr. Reed for his work on the health insurance, saving $800,000 in this vote tonight for the taxpayers of Brook Township. That's a big thing. So thank you.
I just want to say it wasn't just me. The administration, Mr. Edwards, worked on that. You can thank Horizon.
You're very modest, Mr. Reed. Mrs. Cusinelli?
Yes, I'm sorry, just one other question on number 25. Could you just clarify for me specifically what is the ratification on that, number one, and number two, where it references prorated contract costs plus an administration fee of 2 to 4% for member districts? Do we know where we fall in that 2 to 4% based on the formula that's referenced afterwards, or is that...
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, I don't like this form. This is Middlesex Regional ESC's contract that they, have put upon us. We talked to them last year about this and didn't really get much movement on it.
Because if we're picking, I'd like to pick 2%.
Yeah. And the reason why I don't like it is because it's not real clear in that section. And so to clarify it for you, we are not a member district, we're a non-member district, so our admin fee is 6%. And the reason why we're a non-member district is because we are not located in Middlesex County, we're located in Ocean County.
Okay.
So the 2 to 4% is for member districts, and they prorate that number of 2 to 4%, if you care to know, based upon the volume of jointures that you do with them. So the more you have, the lower administrative fee you have. So they have a sliding scale for their member districts, but in order to be a member, you have to be in Middlesex County, which we are not. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that we do have some special education routes that run through Middlesex County. They have some special education routes that run through Ocean County. There is an opportunity for us to put students on a bus, share services with their routes, and save money. So we need to ratify this agreement because this, the contract that we're trying to, the route that we're trying to establish with them has already taken place back in September.
Okay.
And so this agreement with them will allow them to bill us, really, is what it comes down to.
Okay, so it comes down to that date when it initiated. That's what the ratification is referring. Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Uzinski and I have talked about this. We thought that, and again, this is, you learn as you go along here. We thought last year, we had you adopt this resolution last year, and we assumed, terrible to assume, that once we adopted this resolution, that we never had to adopt it again. We were always going to be considered part of it. But then they pointed out to me, which again was the reason why I don't like this agreement, that in item 3, the length of agreement is July 2014 to June 30th, 2015. So as a non-member district, we have to do this every year. And they claim that that's a requirement of the law, but I wasn't able to find it myself. We're a member of Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission. You adopt a resolution to be a member of that ESC 5 years ago, and we're not required to annually up our membership with the ESC. We're a school district, so we're a member. Once you join, you join.
But if we go through the process for a year and we find that the savings is not significant, if we don't have to adopt it again?
Yeah, but we're not, see, to clarify, this resolution is only having us join. This is not the actual contract. for the route. So that's why I think the resolution, in my opinion, is kind of silly, but they say it's a requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other board member questions? Seeing none, do I have any questions from the public on items 1 through 29? Mr. Finelli?
If I understand what Mr. Reed said, state price is going up 12%, and Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to save us $800,000 off that 12% increase?
Yes, the state, had different rates of increase, whether you were single, family, et cetera. But when you factored in, we have a lot of family and 2 adults, those percentage increases were higher than for the single. When you factored that in, it came out to about a 12% increase in premiums for our district for the state plan. Most of the people were signed up with Horizon in the state health benefits plan. And I guess we were considering other health alternatives that didn't include Horizon. And in my opinion, they would rather keep us in their network rather than have us go to some other arrangement for health care. So that's why they decided to save us some money.
The total bill, is that more or less than last year? I'm looking at roughly $22.9 million premiums. Is that more or less than what we paid for health insurance last year? How much?
I'll give that one to Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, it's going to be more, but it's not going to be as much as it would have been had we stayed in the state health benefit plan.
I understand that. Do you have a rough figure?
Actually, no, I don't.
Okay.
I might, hold on. Mr. Reed, I think it's on the worksheet that I gave you earlier this evening. Actually, no, I have it. This is without employee contributions, though, so take that into consideration. The gross cost that I calculated will be about $22,065,000.
And then take out the contribution.
Right.
One quick question. On number 27, if I'm reading the chart right, did we spend $147,000 maintenance on the Littleton School?
Again, as I was answering Mr. Talty's question, no, not really. You have to realize that, like I said, a lot of things are allocated based on square footage. So because it is one of our facilities, and because we can't pinpoint dollar for dollar what everyone's salaries are doing every single day by the minute, it gets allocated on a square footage.
So the answer is no, we didn't.
It's an allocation. What the state, like I told Mr. Talty, what the state cares about is that number on the bottom right bigger than the minimum.
Did we spend anything over there?
I'm sure we spend some money over there. I couldn't tell you the exact dollar, though.
My last question, if that was the number for last year, did the methodology change that we're only going to spend $1,190 this year?
It could have. I'd have to look at how we have somebody different now doing it, so his allocation of how he determined where the money should go may be different. We have a new facilities manager that completed the form this year.
But Mr. Edwards, I thought you said that column E was prior year's actual and the current year budget. Didn't that
Column E, yes, that is correct.
So it had more than 1 year in it?
That's correct.
So I thought you said that was 10 years in there.
It's 10 years worth of data, correct.
Okay.
So that column E is 10 years?
Column E is the prior years and actual current year.
Prior years, you mean 10 years?
That's correct.
I just assumed that what Mr. Reed did, prior years meant the year before.
No, prior years, it's 10 years worth of data in column E. That's what we've spent. That number is an actual number. As to the bottom number, at $13,195,651 is actually what's been spent over the last 10 years. on maintenance.
So then if you look at column G, that would probably be about a yearly average then?
Column G is actually what we budgeted for this year. That's the current year budget.
Anyone else with a question? Seeing none, Mrs. Carey?
Mr. Talty?
Yes on all except 27. No on 27.
Mr. Conti?
Yes, abstain from 20 and 21.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes to all.
Ms. Suter?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantilla?
Yes.
Can I just ask a quick clarification question?
Sure.
On 20 and 21, I just assumed that I had to abstain because my wife's in the district and it's changing the health benefit plans.
No.
If I don't have to, I'd rather change my vote to yes to all.
You don't have to.
No, you do not have to abstain.
Okay, then yes to all, please. Thank you.
Moving on to Human Resources, Ms. Osborne?
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items numbered 1 through 36.
Thank you very much, Ms. Osborne. Do I have a motion for items 1 through 36?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Suter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Do I have any questions on items 1 through 36?
Yes, I do. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Mrs. Suter?
What was changed on number 20?
It's indicated in the administrative notes, just if you want to slide down.
Right. We removed someone because they did not have all their paperwork completed.
Mrs., did anyone else have a question? Mr. Reed?
Yeah, I did. Which one is it? Number 9, athletic event workers. Are these all employees already in the district?
Yes, they are, Mr. Reed.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a question? Mr. Talty?
Yes, on the, on items numbers 13 and 14, I noticed that you have a site coordinator, I'm not going to name the name, but and then you have site teachers. The site coordinator gets $49 an hour, not to exceed 12 hours. The teacher, site teacher, gets $49 an hour, not to exceed 25. The question I have is, I noticed that some of these site coordinators were also listed as site teachers. So how are they being paid? And why do you have substitutes there that could actually be a site teacher? Example, you could go to Drum Point, I'm not going to name the person's name, but the same site coordinator is also listed as a site teacher. Now, are they getting $49 to be a coordinator and $49 to be a teacher?
I'm going to have defer that to Ms. McNamara.
Those are Title
Good evening, Mr. Talty.
Good evening.
Therefore, extended day specialized programs, which require certain certifications in order for the program to be able to run. And since we have limited resources and they need to run exactly at the end of the school day within those schools, we need to take advantage of the teachers that are there. So the site coordinator will work on days when they're not teaching to coordinate those efforts of lesson plans and making sure that sign-in sheets are done appropriately and that payment sheets are done appropriately.
and the assessment data is calculated appropriately, and then on days when they're scheduled to teach, they will teach. As far as the substitutes are concerned, that's for continuity of program. They're there just as a name to be approved. If one of the teachers happens to be absent, rather than canceling that extended day program on that day, you've approved for a certified teacher to step into that program and teach the curriculum that's already been developed for that program on that day. So we can have continuity of program since it is an extended day after school program. Does that explain it?
Partially, yeah. I mean, I'm concerned that the substitutes obviously are qualified.
Yes, they are. Yes.
So my question, I guess, would be, why wouldn't you put a substitute as a site teacher?
Because not all of those substitutes wanted to teach for the entire program, yet
Oh,
they were
okay.
willing to, if necessary, if one of their colleagues became ill, they were willing to step in for a day here and there to maintain the continuity of the program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. McNamara. Anyone else
Just hold on.
with a question? Seeing none, do I have any questions?
He's done.
Excuse me?
There's some questions I have, yes.
Mr. Talty?
Yep, I got
Oh,
some questions.
okay.
On number 29, the volunteers. I noticed that there's pending paperwork on some of them. Why are we putting those people up without knowing that we have their paperwork?
It's my understanding that the state police are running very far behind with the fingerprinting, so we wanted to get them approved. If we have to remove them, we would remove them at another ordering, correct?
If I can help you out a little bit, right now it's the FBI that's behind in the fingerprinting process, and they have told us very bluntly, we'll get to it when we get to it, and if and in case we get to the deadline where their season's going to begin, we can do an emergent hire through the county superintendent of schools. But that's, why we have the pending in there, because we're waiting for the FBI paperwork to come through.
I just asked, and I don't understand, in the other, the employment, and it was on the Schedule C, D, and E, why can we approve the volunteers without the proper paperwork, but we can't approve the other people?
Because the one person that we removed, we have no paperwork on at all. We don't have, these people are like in the process of getting their...
thought we'd get it in
We
by
thought we would
today.
have gotten it in by today, but we don't have any proof that they even went out for fingerprints or anything.
Oh, okay, so those two people, they don't have any paperwork that you...
We pulled them out because there's not even a record of, you get a receipt when you go for your fingerprints saying that your fingerprints are in process.
Right.
So we didn't even have that for those people, so...
Okay, but you have it for these people,
They're
for the
moving
volunteers?
through,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else with a question?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think he's done.
Mr. Talty?
yes.
A lot of questions tonight.
Yes, I do. Number 35, Ms. Edwards' contract. I guess it's better just to go to it. This is a question to Dr. Uzinski. In Mr. Edwards' contract, it shows that he has 27 paid vacation days, which is what he got when he came here. Is there any other employee in the district who gets 27 vacation days? To your knowledge?
No.
Okay. Days to be taken within 2 weeks of notice given shall require the consent and permission of the chief school administrator. Has that happened all the time?
Yes, sir.
Anytime he's taken any days off, vacation, you've known about it beforehand?
Yes, he indicates to me prior to putting into ASUP.
Okay. On the sick leave, the secretary shall receive payment for all unused sick days as of June 30th, 2012. That means from that point on, he will continue to get sick days, but they will not count towards the $15,000.
That's correct, Mr. Talty.
So if, for some reason, and hopefully not, Mr. Edwards had to use a considerable amount of the bank of sick time he has now, and the $15,000 that he is guaranteed as of right now was to go below $15,000.
That's possible.
So then the question is, on his, as it says here, Administrative Board Secretary, at his then current annual salary, what's that then current annual salary? Is it as of June 30th, 2012, or would it be at a later date, maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line?
I don't understand.
I didn't understand the question, the paragraph that you're reading.
Yeah, well, it's on page 5. I don't know if you can get it.
Okay.
It's letter C. Letters.
I don't understand, do you?
Yeah, it's paragraph C, sick leave, and it's on page 5 of his contract.
It's paid $15,000. Whatever was prior to.
If he's getting anything, he can't get anything in excess of 15,000, so.
Right.
If he goes below the 15,000, it would be at whatever current rate he was at when he was being paid for that sick time. So if it's 5 years from now, it's whatever salary he's going to be making 5 years from now, not the 2012 salary, if he falls below the 15,000.
So at his then current annual salary,
Whatever,
could be 20 years from now.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
In his contract, it also says on bereavement, and any person standing loco parentis, whatever.
Local parente.
Does any other contract have that?
Yes, I believe that it mirrors all the teachers' contracts.
That's correct.
The teachers' contracts have that in there?
Yes, Mr. Talty.
Under his health insurance, it shows here he has direct access. Could someone explain what's the difference between direct access and the Horizon plan that he would be going into?
Mr. Edwards, I guess. Want to ask Mr. Edwards?
Mr.
Is he
Edwards?
going-
Mr. Edwards, could
You
you?
have a different plan, I guess I'll ask you.
No,
You have a
direct,
different plan?
Direct 10 is the plan of this, that we have. Direct 10 is.
Is there a
direct
reason
access.
why the direct access is in there?
Yeah, Mr. Talty, I would say that that language has been carried over since probably the second year that I was here. Originally, my contract said that I would be able to have insurance, and at that time, the Board of Education had a traditional plan. I was not a member of the traditional plan, but the board at that time wanted to make sure that I wouldn't be able to take that coverage, and so they wanted it stressed in my contract that I would have the direct access plan. I was one of the first employees in this district to actually be moved into the direct plan, because at that time, most employees of this district had the traditional plan.
Right, so now you don't have the traditional.
Yeah, so the language is just carried over from 5, 6 years ago. I would have to go back and look as to when it exactly was changed, but that the Direct 10 plan, Direct 15, Direct 25, 30 that we have is all the direct access plan.
So you wouldn't have any problems changing that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to negotiate my contract in public, but I guess we could talk
No,
about it.
I'm willing to sit down and talk with you about it.
Next year.
The co-payment shall be the same as other certified staff members. So that, I mean, that seems to go in line with whatever, you know, how it flows, with the exception of the health insurance. And on page 7, it says, if the board then elects to move out of the health state benefits plan, which we are, coverage provided, health care, dental, and prescription will be as provided for prior to moving into the state health care benefits plan. So what does that mean to you?
Mr. Talty, if I may, that means that we can't provide less.
Yes,
You have to
okay.
have an equivalent plan. You can't make Mr. Edwards or anybody take a lesser quality plan. That's all that means.
So he would be basically getting the same plan as all the other administrators.
They may call it something different, but it can't be less than what the other administrators are getting.
But don't you think we should have something so it's clear?
It's
So
hard
people
from a
understand that?
year-to-year contract when you don't know who your provider is going to be and exactly what Mr. Edwards or any other administrator is going to take direct access, 15 or 20 or 25. They may opt for a larger deductible. We can't dictate that. We just have to give them a platform of equal opportunity within the health plan to choose.
Okay. I think I have one more. Automobile use and reimbursement.
What is that?
In all the contracts that I know, when a person uses his automobile and goes out of the district, he gets reimbursed. The language as it reads right here would indicate that if you drove around Brick, just from one school to the other, you could put in a voucher for that. I think that should be changed.
I don't think Mr. Edwards wants to negotiate his contract.
No, I understand he can't negotiate here.
I believe that was in all the prior contracts with Mr. Edwards. I don't believe that was a change. And Brick is a very large district. If he goes 4 times between Memorial and Central, I mean,
With all due respect, all the employees that we negotiate with, when we negotiate their contracts, we tell them, we will pay you if you go outside the district. If you're going inside the district, we're not going to pay you to go from one school to another. So, I mean, I can't recommend this contract as it reads right now. That's all I have to say.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I hate to bring up the same subject, but I thought maybe that was a typographical error in that section, because I know every new contract, we have been saying out of district, and I'm looking at how it's typed, and I'm wondering if after the word of, maybe that was a typographical error, because we have consistently, with every new contract, specifically put in the words out of district. I don't know if that was a typographical error or what.
That was not a typo ever, and each contract has to be negotiated. I have to leave it there. You can't, maybe counsel, can't take out of a contract something that has been compensated or negotiated on, and you can't give less of a compensation by law. So therefore, you have to negotiate. And the person doesn't have to give in to, I'm sorry.
no, but again, I wasn't part of it, so if there was discussions about that particular paragraph, I do not know, but if it was not negotiated out, then therefore it's in.
Can I ask a question to the lawyer? So if I hear you correctly, if a person was getting X amount of dollars in salary and Y amount of benefits, and you reduced somehow, the benefits were reduced, okay? would that mean that we would automatically have to increase his salary to maintain that, or is it each negotiations rides on its own?
It's hard to give you a blanket answer, but I think what you're getting at is each contract is negotiated on its own, except in the terms of moving from one health benefit plan to another. You can't unilaterally reduce somebody's health benefits without their consent, if you will. We could
No, I'm not talking about reducing a person's health benefit. I'm talking about if the benefit itself, if the cost of the benefit was reduced.
If it costs the district less to give them the same benefit, you don't have to renegotiate the contract. What it costs the district, we just have to provide equal type of benefit, not less. So if it costs the district less, that's fine. That's not renegotiating their contract.
So there's a total of his wages and his benefits, which equal a certain number now. If you reduce the health insurance cost, would I have to increase his salary to maintain a certain number?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.
No, doesn't make sense.
Any other questions? No? Mr. Tolte, any other questions?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm ready to vote.
Any questions from the public? Mr. Finelli?
Two quick and easy ones. Do we have a cap on how much vacation time we're allowed to give out in the district as of now?
Only, want me to do it?
Yeah.
Only to the superintendent.
Only to the superintendent?
That's correct.
Okay. So Mr. Edwards could negotiate beyond his 27 days?
Yes, sir.
And that 27 days was given to him when he showed up here? I don't know how long ago that was.
Yes.
Just for
My understanding.
general information. 15 years ago, industry did away with 6 weeks vacation, 5 weeks vacation, pretty much locked everything down to 4 weeks. Now, they did grandfather people. I was one of the people that got 6 weeks vacation, so they were grandfathered. After that, there was no more increases in vacation, so you're negotiating, keep that in mind. Second question also related to that, does every administrative position have a salary cap on it, or just yours?
Just mine.
Just yours?
That's correct.
God bless you, Mr. Edwards, for you're walking on water. I know you're worth every penny of it.
Any other questions from the public? Seeing none? Ms. Carey?
Mr. Tolte?
Yes on all? Yes on all except 29 and 35.
Ms. Talty, is that an abstention or a no?
Pardon me?
You didn't say whether you're abstaining or a no vote. Assume no, but I just want...
29 and 35 are no.
Gotcha.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes to all. I do have to abstain on number 28, though.
Ms. Suter?
I abstain on 32 and yes to the rest.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any comments from our Board of Education members. Mr. Panucci?
Just to be quick, it's been a busy fall. We've been going to football games and back-to-school nights and band competitions and school programs and presentations. The turnout has been amazing. Fans, parents, staff, I think it's at an all-time high. All of our sports teams are excelling, academic scores are going up, buildings are being repaired, and I'm just really thankful to be able to be a part of it. It's a good time at this juncture to be a part of Brick Schools.
Ditto. Very well said, Mr. Panucci.
Oh, one thing, I forgot. That technology video we saw earlier, we may have discussed it in Community Outreach Committee. Are we going to get that up on the website and possibly get that on BTV?
Well, that's a great idea, yeah.
Because that was a fantastic video the technology department put together, and I'd like to see that out to the public.
Absolutely. Great idea. Thank you.
Now I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else? Mrs. Cusinelli?
Well, I just wanted to kind of reiterate what our representative from Brick High School talked about. I'm also a member of the Brick chapter of Unico, and I was at the flag-raising ceremony, as Mrs. Ponterero was, and I just want to say how much we appreciated the kids coming from Brick Memorial High School and from Brick High School to do the performances and be there. You have to understand, this was a Saturday morning, the weather was terrible, it was early, I'm sure, for these kids to have to get up on a Saturday. And not only are they amazingly talented, everybody really appreciated interacting with the kids, and it was also tremendous that their teachers, their advisors were there, and it really meant a lot to everybody, and I just wanted all of them to know that it really went a long way.
Thank you, Mrs. Cusinelli. Mr. Conti?
I just wanted to say that I got to attend the Lanes Mill ceremony for Ms. Kachugian yesterday, and I can say with all certainty that in 1985, as a first grader there, I knew greatness was in that building with Mrs. Kozlowski in first grade. It was excellent to be there and to see her honored by our district. Also got to pop by Osborneville today, where they honored the bus drivers, which was great. I know my son gets on the bus every morning, and I'm happy to see him off, and his driver's the same every day. And then he comes back to my mom, and pretty soon to my wife. So they do a fantastic job. Two quick updates. Brick Memorial High School, the boys and girls played in the short conference tournament today. The girls won tonight, and so they're advancing. The boys unfortunately lost their match. But that is, I think everything.
Thank you, Mr. Conti. Mr. Reed?
I just want to say it's exciting to see the technology in the school district being expanded and improved on. I love to see the facilities being fixed up. We're still short of money in most areas. We could always use savings to fix up more items in the schools, and it's a team effort. Everybody in the district can contribute towards saving money, and we can use that to improve student performance. Because if they have air conditioning, they might feel better and perform better.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mrs. Suter?
I just want to thank Ms. McNamara for her presentation. For something that is ever-changing on a daily, minute-by-minute basis, your presentation was very clear and very concise, and I thank you for that. And I know that wasn't an easy task, especially since they probably changed things 10 times. I'd like to request that that be put on the website as well. A lot of parents were introduced to Park at back-to-school nights this year, and I think it's very confusing. So what happened in September has changed from this point. So if we could get something on there, your presentation would be great. We can get something maybe a little bit.
That's a great idea, as long as it doesn't change. We'll put it, before we get it up, it may change.
I know. But still, it was a good presentation, yeah. And I think people would really get a lot out of it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Suter. Mr. Pulte?
Yes, I'm glad finally we got the uniforms for our workers. I noticed they were purchased and I arrived. I would ask also people to take their God-given right to vote in this next election. It's an important election, the local school board, and I would suggest that you make yourself aware of the candidates who are running and the positions that they have and the accomplishments that they have achieved or not achieved. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Talty. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Good evening, Madam President, and the remainder of the board. Mariana C. Pontoriero, 2347 Hooper Avenue. I'm here tonight to primarily thank Unico for coming to honor what was in the month of October. It's almost ended now, but Italian Heritage Month. It's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. The Unico presentation was stupendous. The children, even though Ms. Cusinelli gave them credit, you had to be there to see how magnificent they were. They were exemplified of what I'd like my child to be at that age, especially singing opera. I love that. My two regrets are that, number one, it wasn't videotaped. Had I known what it was going to be, I would have had IT there to videotape it, so we could have put it on BTV, because when I go around and speak to different senior developments, because I'm the senior liaison too, they would have loved to have seen that. So next year, when you come back, it's going to be videotaped. The second thing that I have regret for is I still have no application for Unico. I will be member 56.
I'll get it for you.
Thank you. Okay.
I actually just signed up myself last month, so we're in it.
What are you saying? You beat me?
I beat you. I beat you.
I think you said you're going to be number 57.
I said I would be number 56 before you signed your application, so I begged.
Frank?
The Columbus Day
I'm the first
Parade
Polish
was spectacular as well. Our kids marched in that parade. I was there with my familia, representing my firm that day, and I got to see the kids. I can't believe how great our bands really are. I am asking that the Columbus Day Parade footage be placed on BTV. I've contacted the head, Mike Blandina, so we should be able to get that on BTV. Everybody should be able to see it, especially when I go and talk to homebound seniors who say, I would love to see that, and they have no way to see it. So that's one thing that I really want. The next thing I really want from you is I want to thank you first, because I now have Zachary Hines from Brick High School, who is my intern, both for my law office and for council. Now I'm looking for 13 more students, because we'd like to give every member of council 2 interns. We'd like to do 2 for the fall and 2 more for the spring to give the maximum experience. All that we need is a brief description of the student, a resume. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, and whatever paperwork that the school requires to fill out. I know I filled out some information about what he'd be learning, what he'd be experiencing, and I will say Zachary Hines sat for a 3.5-hour council meeting on Tuesday night. So that alone should be worth credits, school credits, some kind of credit. I mean, fabulous. We want our youth to see these fabulous band members, the fabulous kids that performed at Unico, and we want to see these kids in our government, because that's how we're going to help eliminate this insidious drug problem that we have. Give these kids better mentors. Give them better mentors. Every one of us on council wants 2 of your kids. Give them to us. Give me the names, get them to us. We'll fit with their resume, the right one. They can't select the one they want, because I know they don't pick me. I mean, they can't all have me. If they put on there what their skill sets are, what their wishes are, intentions are to learn, we can match them with the right council person and do a lot of good for a lot of kids. We now started honoring at our council meetings the Students of the Month, another way that we need to show these are your role models, kids, not what you're seeing on the streets, not what you're hearing on the streets. These should be your role models. We were very honored to have 2 of them come in at our council meeting, and we were all very, very proud of them. Let me see what else I have. I want to thank you for the senior citizen technology class. I did announce that at our council meeting during my public comment section, gave the dates, gave the times. Very much appreciated. Expanding would be fabulous. Everywhere that I go once a month to a senior development and speak to them about what concerns they have. That's an ongoing concern, and they're very happy to hear that that you're listening and that you're doing something for them. They're very, very happy. So I will be announcing, if you shoot me an email with what you're doing, I will make it part of my public announcement every time, and nobody has a time limit, so they can't stop me. And then I just wanted to give everybody an update, because all the parents that watch this have kids that play at the parks. I wanted to let everybody know, because I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee. Lake Riviera Park, Angela Hibbert Park, Colorado Park are all in phases of being renovated. So for all those people who ask me, what about my park here? What about this? Those are the parks that we're targeting next. We plan to break ground on the first one. I think it's Lake Riviera's first, but don't hold me to it. I think we're breaking ground this coming fall on that. Windward Beach we just redid, and it's the first time we have a spot for disabled children to play. The fencing, I will give a shout out to Carl's Fencing, who donated the fencing, because if you have a special needs child, you can't sit and just let them play unless they're in a contained area, so that you don't have to worry. So we're thrilled about that. Tomorrow night is Trunk or Treat at 6 o'clock. Now, it's a little too late this year to get the older students involved, but what I would love to see for next year is let the seniors that are driving cars decorate their cars, bring them to Trunk or Treat, and hand out treats to these kids. I want these little ones to see the best of what Brick has. And I know the kids that would take the time to do that. Maybe it's a sports group, maybe it's the football team, maybe it's the cheerleaders, and they make different kinds of cars. I will be doing a Frozen themed car. I won't be judging it. I won't be judging the cars, don't think that. But if maybe we could encourage, again, the participation by the older students to give role models to those younger kids. If I tell you every year we run out of candy at Trunk or Treat, every year, I bought 80 pounds of candy myself. Let's see if I go through it. I bet you I will, because it's safe. It's safe for the kids. But I'd like to get the older kids involved, because it would be so fabulous for these kids to them, football players are heroes, are superstars. Cheerleaders are, that's like a living embodiment of an idol. They would go nuts to see that our town is so involved. So my goal by the end of my 4-year term, so now I'm not as sparkly and shiny as I was, but my goal is to really involve the council and the government, our local government, more with the school board, because number one of our drug problem. I think that we can combine Joe Coronado's ideas, his Lead and Seed, all of the excellent videos I saw him do, everything that these teachers are doing. We can combine that with one more element, and that's FaceTime with these kids. FaceTime with people who care about them, who are good role models, and who legitimately want to help. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Pontoriero. Mr. Hyefantis.
Going to the 3 Bs, which are be brief, be concise, and be gone. I'm going to introduce you to the New Jersey Sustainable Program for Schools. You might be aware that the township just qualified as a bronze certification, where 146 towns have qualified out of the 500 plus. We just got certified last week. The New Jersey Sustainable people are also offering this to schools. I hope to attend a session next Tuesday at Atlantic City to get some more details, but let me read to you very briefly what they've got planned for these many pages.
May I to let him know?
8 bullets, I'll just read
Tommy's
two.
going too.
Sustainable New Jersey for Schools advances and supports sustainable practices in schools and prepares the next generation of children to address sustainable issues, provides access to grants, and identifies funding opportunities for schools to make progress toward those actions. To qualify bronze, you need 150 points. The list of projects is 800 points long. And I looked through the list, I find we already have 70 points on programs that I know, which of course is a very small portion of the total school population program opportunities. So After the attendance next week, I will have a report for you for the November meeting with more details and what opportunities might be we could take advantage of. It will require a substantial investment in time initially from the schools to set up a green team and get projects organized and get the participation so that they can be applied for and certified. That process will probably take the better part of a year, starting in roughly November. Thanks for your time. I'll give you this information. You can also get it on electronically if you wish.
Mr. Hyphantis, thank you so much for your participation and for just doing everything that you do and volunteering with all of our facilities, along with Mr. Campbell. We are very, very appreciative, and thank you for getting us involved and giving this to us. And
Glad to do it.
Mr. Lyman, just so you know, our head of Buildings and Grounds is going to Atlantic City to this. We're sending him there. He's going also to get involved.
That's what I was going
I
to
need
say.
access to the actual sessions. I can get into the...
You'll have it when you go to the main desk. It's there already. We already took care of that. But Mr. Lyman will be there too, because he's going to be collecting, because he's going to be getting involved.
Excellent.
Because of facility. So thank you.
I'm meeting with him next week to discuss training for his folks for energy conservation.
Yep.
And for the access to the OCE program for rebates for lighting. He's planning to do some more lighting, so
That's great. Thanks a million.
we're pretty closely together on that.
Excellent.
thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes.
Did Walt want to say something, or is he just getting up to go? I didn't know if he was...
Hi. Most of you know BMAC is coming back, and the board for BMAC is a volunteer board, so it's going to be run a little bit different than it had been in the past. In the past, there was a lot of salaries. We have a lot of people in town. I mean, you can't, we need to pay them. They've scaled back on recreation, so we need more volunteers to make BMAC work. BMAC is different than recreation in the fact that it's about prevention. And the grants are not what they used to be from the county. Exactly what the grant is going to be, Councilwoman Andrea and one of the women, Tara, that work for our township are writing the grant. So I don't want to say exactly what that's going to say because I don't know. I know it's not going to be very much though. I know that having some of you guys and administration and people on the board, on this board, is critical. You guys know I'm stuck on this drug thing till it's gone. So, I mean, it's critical. As the councilwoman was just speaking, and she's so animated, you know, and it is critical. And I know there's that line there between school and the township and all, but when it comes to our kids, we all need to just drop it, drop whatever, just stop, drop, and roll for them. The one, you all know, I'm not so concerned about the ones that are already, you know, on the other side of the fence. But these up-and-coming kids that are still good kids, that are still, I want to keep them busy. We're going to need your support. We're going to need your auditoriums. We're going to need you guys on the board who know. We're going to need you as educators. I'm a parent on the board. I've been a parent for a really long time, so I guess that gives me some kind of, but I don't have the experience with mass children, as some of you guys do, making decisions for them, figuring out what might be a venue I can figure out, but figuring out like what time limits or what songs or what, we need you guys. I know you're busy, I know you do a lot, and I know I'm asking a lot. Maybe some of you can contact Andrea and ask her, like, does it have to be the same one he is all the time with the way the grant's written? I don't know, maybe you could pick out a hat. You could do January, you do February, you do March, I don't know. But I'm really asking you to consider some of you's giving up an hour a month to sit across the street the fourth Monday of every month. We need a couple of years. It's a 25-person board. There's still a couple of seats open. I'm looking at you over there. You got up-and-coming kids, right?
I do.
You did?
Actually,
So
Mindy,
I'm looking at you.
you know, I thank you and everything you do with BMAC. I was actually chairman of BMAC back in 2004 2004, 2005, fresh out of college, 25 years old, and it's important.
It is important.
And with everything else we're involved with, whatever time I can donate, believe me, I will for you.
And you know I'm going to call you on that.
You already have, I know.
I know. So I just want you to take it under consideration and contact, like I said, I'm not the knowledge, as to how this grant's going to be written, but please contact her.
Sorry.
I'm sure she can give you a lot more information and answer any questions. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's just BMAC. So I'm sure, anything that needs to be separated can be separated. It's just BMAC. We just need your time.
And I have to tell you that Mr. Philippone, for as long as I can remember, has been a member of BMAC and devoted a lot of his time to BMAC. So,
What you doing now? Good. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
we care. We will definitely be there.
I just want to put it out there because it's coming soon and we want to hit the ground running with it. Give the kids a lot of stuff to do.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Finelli?
These are killing me. Feel hot.
I just want to add my 2 cents about the presentations. I've read just about everything that comes out on Park, and it's as much positive and negative. I mean, it's pro and con, and probably 50-50. I wasn't sure how the school district stood on this, but it sounds like you're 100% behind it and kind of do it and give it a shot. And if I'm correct in assuming that, then great job and great presentation. It was answered a lot of questions. On the technology presentation, the same thing. I know we spend a lot of money on technology, and I know Mr. Reed was behind pushing a lot of that. And I brought this up in the past, and we did it for a while, but it seems like we stopped doing it, and I'd like to see if we can start to continue it again. When we were doing a lot of the projects for the schools, they were showing up on the school website, and people got to see where their money was going. And I don't know how many people are going to see that presentation, but it was an excellent presentation. It shows you where the money's going, how it's being used, and you never heard me complain about a dime we spent on technology, but it's nice to see where it's going. I have a couple of questions on the October 9th meeting. In fact, that wasn't that meeting or the one before, but you had an October 9th special meeting. You're looking like you don't remember.
Was it our board retreat? Is that what you're referring to? Okay.
Where you snuck in the superintendent's bonus program. One of my
I didn't sneak anything in, Mr. Finelli. We had an agenda that was publicized.
Can I ask, I think I know the answer, but there were nine speech teachers that are taking off the same time without pay. Is that religious holidays? Okay. I'm just curious if that was. Second question has to do, and I'm not going to go over all around other than the 5 categories on the superintendent's bonus program. And I ask who put them together? Who actually wrote them out?
Board committee and I. Board committee and I.
The school, not the county superintendent.
It goes to the county for approval.
He approves them, and he didn't do them.
Yes, he did. No, he didn't do them, no. No.
Because last year you told me he did.
No, he puts together based on a pool. They go to all the superintendents across the state, and what they do is they put a booklet together so that you can get some creative ideas of what's worked really well in one district that maybe you want to do in your district that you're not thinking of. So you get to look at those. And they've already been pre-approved by the county, so that you know that if you're going to see something that would benefit your district and you want to do for improvement as a superintendent, you can put that in because you're pretty guaranteed that the county's going to approve because it was approved. How can they not approve something that was approved? Well, then against the state.
The school board evaluates your results against those
The
targets.
school board doesn't evaluate. The school board gets what, when I make and reach the goal, I submit my documentation that I've attained what I said I'm going to do. That's it. If it's attainable, then by contract, I'm entitled. That's it. That's how it goes. There's nothing evaluating or doing anything. There's nothing to do with that. This is a merit bonus.
The merit bonus with each category has like a 1%, 2%, or 3%. Somebody has to evaluate that.
No, it doesn't have 1, 2, or 3. It has a value. If you attain it, you get your value. That's it. If you don't attain it, you don't get it.
We had this discussion several years ago, and if you remember... in the-
I do recall.
Nick stood up and said, no, Mr. Finelli is correct.
No, you stood up and said, and you said, you're actually giving me more money. And I said, oh, thank you. I remember the conversation was in the library.
Mr. Saradnik, I'll say this again, when I went through your bonus program and I explained to the school board what I thought it said, all of you said, no, I was wrong. And then Mr. Saradnik, 10 minutes later, interrupted the meeting and said, I have to say, Mr. Finelli is correct in everything he said. Okay? And those ranges were from 1 to 3%.
No, they're not. They're not.
They're not. What are they?
They're not. And I don't know off the top of my head. It's 2 point something and 3 point something. That's it. One is quantitative, one is qualitative. And if you attain it, you get either the 2 point something or the 3 point something. That's it.
I don't have it with me, but I still have it.
Well, that's okay. Go on the website. It's on the DOE website. It's right there. It talks about it, and they'll tell you. And there's 2 point, and I don't know off the top of my head. I apologize. It's 2 point something for, and I don't know this, say qualitative, and 3 point something for quantitative. And you're allowed 3 quantitative, and you're allowed 2 qualitative. Period.
That's what's on there now that changed from the original one.
No, that was original. That was original. It was never 1, 2, or 3. Never. No, I apologize, but I know it for a
They all had
fact.
the same weight of 3%.
No. No, sorry. I apologize. You know what I'll do? I'll print it out, and I'll email, with your permission, I'll email it to you if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll think in my big fat bag.
All right, thanks.
I got to watch 2 meetings at home for the last 4 months, and you can't hear a word that anybody up here says. And I turned it like, my computer volume all the way up, and you can't hear what people say. So I don't know whether people don't talk into this, or it's just a bad microphone.
We're having trouble with the system. This is portable.
Cannot hear. Right?
We ordered the parts for it.
Dr. Uzinski is telling me that it's portable and the parts are ordered for it.
Our system is down, and this is portable. This is temporary until we can get it repaired. The thing went out completely. Thus, we're having trouble with...
How long ago was that?
I wouldn't know. Do you remember, Mr.?
Okay. That goes along with what I said.
Yeah, I didn't know when, but I just had heard that because I've been asking when the parts are going to...
Trying to get through my list, please. Mr. Reed, this is for you. Tax bill. Remember our conversation back in February when we did the budget and you started off with the same amount of money, and then you kept saying that you didn't raise the tax levy, and I kept saying it doesn't matter, that the taxes are going to go up because there's less people around, there's 500 homes in Brick that are abandoned, and even though you didn't raise the tax levy, our taxes are going to go up, right?
Went up.
Did you look at your tax bill? Did your taxes go up?
The school district is one component of your tax bill.
I'm talking strictly tax, you know that. Don't say that, please. You know when I come here, I'm talking about school taxes, not library tax, not county tax, not...
So now I pay
municipal tax. My school
$20,000 a
tax
year,
went
so
up.
now I'm going to be even more vocal.
Yours do too, because they
Yeah,
didn't pick me
I
up.
pay $20,000 a year.
So if you spend the same amount of money
for me. I don't care who it is.
as you did, and there's less people to pay it, your taxes are gonna go up, and my school taxes went up, so I'm assuming everybody else's did. They didn't pick me out individually, although I'm sure you might like to do that. Taxes went up, like I said, they
Didn't change.
I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm going to say it.
Did your assessment go up?
Can I take this?
My taxes-
Did your assessment go up?
My assessment.
Mine did.
My assessment did not go up. Everything stayed the same,
No.
except my taxes went up.
They had lowered a number of assessments because of Sandy damage, and they raised a bunch back up this year. So that's why I asked.
I haven't heard anything about that at the council meeting.
Well, they wouldn't mention that to you at the council meeting. You have to look at your tax bill.
My assessment.
So since you directed the question to me, my house changed 0, and my assessment went up. So maybe yours went up too.
No, it didn't. I'm looking at it. It did not go up.
So what do you want me to do? Lower your taxes?
For your information.
What we could do is take up a collection so you don't have a tax increase.
know what I'm saying. In the last meeting, there were quite a few accolades being thrown around about the high schools moving up in the stack ranking of the New Jersey Monthly Magazine. And I didn't know what New Jersey Monthly Magazine was. I don't know if anybody's read it. I never read it. I never even heard of it. But I did a little research. And I don't mind people giving accolades when they're meaningful and something is actually accomplished and things are getting better. So let me give you a little background, then you can make jump to your own conclusions. Okay? Here's what the New Jersey Magazine writes about. New Jersey Monthly Magazine. Home, restaurants, living, Jersey Shore, style and shopping, towns and schools, top dentists, top doctors, events, and best of New Jersey. So I'm not really sure how qualified they are to stack rank the schools in the state. On top of that, they didn't even do the numbers for this evaluation. A company up in North Jersey did the newspaper.
Mr. Finelli, you're approaching your time limit.
Okay. What are the categories they measure? School environment, school performance, and school after high school. How are they weighted? Well, some categories have a weight of 1, some have a weight of 1.5, some have a weight of 2.1. How do you move up and down the stack rankings? Right? There's actually 3 ways you move up and down the stack rankings. One way is you get better. The other way is everybody else gets worse and you get better. And the third way is they change the way they're doing the measurement system. They change the categories that they're looking at. That's what happened this year. And I'll give you some examples.
Mr. Finelli, I would rather you not. We've already exceeded the time limit, and we've all read the article. I don't think that we need to be educated any further on it.
You know. Well, the accolades really do not. There's a pin. You mentioned the candidates for the school board. I'd just like to remind the candidates that the township has a ordinance about putting signs out, and you can only put them out on private property. You can't put them out in the little triangles or traffic circles and whatnot. Now, I realize you people don't put out your own signs, give them to other people to put them out. You need to instruct people that those signs can only go on private property and not on public property, like the islands and traffic signals and everything else.
They make the decision.
You also have to the last thing I'd like to talk about is enrollment.
Mr. Finelli, you've exceeded your time limit. You're going to have to save it for next month. Thank you. Is there anyone else with a public comment? Yes, sir.
Well, that's the guy that came once before about environmental or something. Someone his grandkid, I forgot. Remember this one?
John Sluka, Sylvia Court. I actually enjoyed speaking after Mr. Finelli and Mr. Scott here and at over to the cross street, if I do, because they take care of all the financial things, and at times drive me nuts too, but at the same time, they really have some insight and do some research, so more than most of us, because we have 75,000 residents, and obviously we have 15 people in meetings. Anyway, my question is really related to you people, and it might be related to Dr. Yazinski, but more. But our class trips or field trips to zoos, Great Adventure, all that stuff, required as part of the class since it's supposed to be a learning experience? And if a parent doesn't want a child to go, just say a zoo because they're against zoos because they don't like the way animals are treated, or whatever reason it happens to be. Do the kids have to stay home from school, or is there actually a teacher in school since all the teachers are going to this class field trip is what you said, I believe. And if that's the case, they have some alternatives things they could do. Way back when my daughter was in school, she would free worms, take them outside, we put them in the dirt and everything. But she refused to cut her up and was willing to take a 0, and they gave her alternative things. I don't want, again, kids sitting around doing nothing.
To answer your question, it's alternatives. If they don't choose to go, and sometimes parents choose to keep their child home, it's up to them.
Keeping a child home.
Well, I'm not saying you. I'm saying some people do. You asked, I'm saying there's alternatives, and some people choose to take home. Hasn't changed in the last 50 years that I remember.
So even for a field trip, they don't have to go.
That's correct.
And the other thing too is, I know we had another great presentation on Common Core, and their part about, presentation's always great. The problem I always have with Common Core, being as old as I am, I think it's a tendency to think too much old, but over the years I've learned that change is good, and in most cases it works out well. But the Common Core at some times, especially in the younger grades, seems to try to make everybody the same. Now, yes, it picks up the standards of some people, but then it doesn't give the advantage to grow. In high school, it's AP and everything else. I'm not sure they have that in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade for somebody who's good at math or good at English and not so good at something else.
They differentiate the instruction in all grade levels. Every kid is an individual. One size does not fit all. So K through 12, and that's the way we do it, and it works extremely well. So, and the Common Core, it was just like when we had the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards came in. It was a change. It was different. People feared it. They were reluctant. You had it. Now the Common Core is here. We just need to give it time because the standards are rigorous. If you compare the Common Core with the New Jersey Curriculum Content Standards, you're going to see all it is condensed more, because today you take my grandchildren that are 2 and 3 years old, and they're amazing what they could do with their iPads. And I'm talking about educational apps that they go on, and they know how to get on it, what to do with it, and they're only 2 and 3 years old. At 2, I don't even remember. I don't even remember holding a pencil or how to hold a pencil correctly. So when we talk about going back, we need to be rigorous and get into the 21st century, and it's difficult for people like me that are older than dirt. I knew she was going to say it over there.
I'm a little older than that.
So I'm just saying is that the Common Core has a lot of good elements to it.
Review it continuously.
Yes, correct. I think, and with my grandchildren in the primary grades now and watching what's going on and being involved in it, it's at a very, very exciting time right now. So I applaud you for what you're saying, and I agree with you, but we need to give it that opportunity, because
Keep evaluating it.
I think it's gonna,
Evaluating it.
and that's exactly right. Well said.
It's the way it is, and it's good for everybody, because it does help the kids who are behind in some areas.
Yes.
You know, I have grandchildren and stuff too, and some in one area picked up. When they were ahead in some other area, they're not being pushed further ahead. They're sort of like, you know, try to, you know, they're past, they're doing well, but not going even further.
Mrs. Mack won't let me let the kids not fail. I have to go after them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great points.
And if you want more information on Common Core, the School Boards Association website has a whole section based just on Common Core. So you can...
Look on our website, too. We're putting things on the website now for parents, so that's the reason for the presentation tonight, too, is that we're going to try to keep acclimated, as Mrs. Suter said, to put this one on, but we have other things that are coming in from the county office, my county superintendent, and they're sending us stuff so that we can keep messaging every time we reach the public, so we're going to try to put more on the website. Just came out this week. You're right. And
You know, every day, no program will work without information to the public. And like I said, we have 75,000 people now, so it's not only the parents, it's everybody.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I have a couple dates. November 6th and 7th is the NJEA convention. Schools are closed. November 20th is our next regular meeting here at Brick High School at 7:00 p.m. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Panucci and Mr. Conti.
Mr. Talty?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Suter?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. Good night, everyone.